Blue Hives just got changed with the way they make their honey. So I'll be giving you guys a complete Blue Hive guide and showing you how to make trillions of honey. Alright, now starting off, we're going to begin with the hive composition. We're going to be using MetaBees Hive Builder. Now we're going to start off simple, and that's just with the tadpole bees. Actually, you know what? No, we'll start off with buoyant bees. Now we're already starting things off with a bang, but you are going to need 16 buoyant bees. I wish I was joking, but I'm not. You're going to need a lot of balloons as a blue hive, and well, buoyant bees are pretty much the only reliable way to get them. So yeah, 16 buoyant bees, and if you can, make them gifted, so that way they can spawn the golden balloon tokens, and the balloons just last longer. But there we go. 16 buoyant bees are now in the hive. So now we can move on to tadpole bees. Now we're going to need a bit less tadpole bees. When it comes to tadpole bees, we're only going to need 11. Now I say only 11. I mean, 11 is still a lot. But hey, at least it's not 16. So just work on adding your 11 gifted buoyant bees to your hive. This is around what it should look like. And yes, of course, for you, you're actually going to be doing this hive in the main game. I'm just showing it on Hive Builder because I can't do it in the test ROM because on it basically wiped everything. But moving on, this is where the hive starts to get a little tough, so you got to pay close attention. Next, we're going to move on to 4 gifted music bees, so we can just add them right here, and of course make sure they're gifted because that's half the reason you have them. And after that, really quickly, just to make things simple, let's move on to the event bees before we cover the entire other list of bees. You're going to want 1 gifted tabby bee because basically every single hive on earth needs a gifted tabby bee. You're also going to be running a festive bee along with 1 gifted gummy bee and especially 1 gifted bear bee. And to top it all off, yes, you are going to be using a windy bee. Now I know some of you are wondering about digital bee and wondering if you're going to need it. And one thing you should know about blue hives is it's very up to you. So there's no one hive fits all. You kind of just got to experiment. And some blue players don't have a lot of blue drives. Okay, correction. Most blue players don't have blue drives. So for most blue players, you aren't going to be using digital bee. But if you actually have a fair amount of blue drives, then I would say yes, that's when you want to use digital bee. And also, if you do happen to have pink shades with a focus ability on them, you can use 3 music bees instead of 4. But now that we've covered all of our mythic bees, our legendary bees, and our event bees, it's time to move on to literally everything else. Now I lied when I said we were done with the legendaries and mythics because we're still going to need more. For starters, we're going to get 1 gifted fuzzy bee, and yes, you do need one even if you don't have a fuzzy hive. Here, we'll just slap him right there in the middle of the hive. After that, you're going to be needing not only a gifted ninja bee, but a gifted diamond bee as well. There we go. 1, 2. And that is all the legendary bees you will need for this hive. Of course, just make sure they're all gifted. But after that, you're going to be needing 1 gifted shocked bee. Make sure it is gifted. Along with the shocked bee, you're going to run a gifted commander bee. Along with some blue epics, we're going to be using the gifted bubble bee, a gifted frosty bee, and a gifted bucko bee. So we can just add those 3 to the hive. After you've got your epics in place, we're going to move on to some of the less good bees, but still necessary ones like bomber bee. You are going to need a bomber bee. And along with the bomber bee also comes 1 gifted stubborn bee. You're also going to be needing a gifted bumblebee and a gifted cool bee, a gifted looker bee, and finally the 1 bee to top it all off. Every hive needs one, you know it. We're going to be using a gifted basic bee because 1.2 times pollen is completely overpowered. So really quickly before we move on to amulets and mutations and stuff, you can pause the video right here and take a screenshot of this. Use this as your reference for a blue hive, and I'll also put the list of all the bees you need on screen right now. Now, once again, remember that blue hives are different for everybody. So when you start, you're going to want to use the 16 buoyant bees and the 11 tadpole bees. But if you're filling your backpack way too easily, that's when you can get rid of one of your tadpole bees and replace it with an extra buoyant bee. But if you do macro with alt accounts, then you can get rid of some of your tadpole bees for buoyant bees, but just don't get rid of all of them because you still need them for Popstar. And speaking of Popstar, yeah, it's amulet time, whatever. Everyone's least favorite part of being a Beeswarm endgame player. But amulets are one of the most essential parts of being a blue hive, so you need to pay attention. We're going to start off with your Supreme Star amulet. Now, we're going to get into double passives in a second. I'm just going to really quickly cover the main percentages that you're going to want on here. There's the 2.5 capacity, which is guaranteed. You're going to want blue pollen, convert rate, bee ability rate, critical chance, and pollen. Those are all the things you're going to want for your Supreme Star amulet, and this is a perfect amulet, so it's going to take you a lot of honey if you want to get this perfectly. So it's okay if you only have like 4 out of 5. Just make sure you have the essentials like blue pollen. Like, don't forget the blue pollen on your amulet. Now when it comes to the passives, there's a few things you can do. Now if you're just starting off as a blue hive, then you want to go for just a pop star. If you can get just a solid pop star amulet and you're a starter blue hive, you are just fine. But if you have more honey to drop, that's when you want to start going for better double passives. Now the dream, the best thing you could ever want on a blue amulet is pop shower. You're going to want the pop star and the star shower passives at the same time. Pop star because no duh, it's a pop star, you need it for a blue hive. And then the star shower because it helps if you're filling your backpack, and it helps you get a lot of inspire, which helps you collect way too much pollen. Now if you can't manage to get a pop star, a pop guiding will also work as well. Pop star and guiding star. This is because the guiding star does give a 1.25 capacity multiplier as well as 2.5 pollen. So I mean, guiding star is still pretty good. But if you can, it is recommended that you go for pop shower. But just keep in mind, if you are an early game blue hive and you are just going for the solo pop star amulet, then that's the point where you do want to get a 5 out of 5 amulet because it's not going to cost you nearly as much. Now keep in mind, we will be coming back to all the other amulets. Just before I cover the rest of them, it's very important that we cover mutations. And don't just shrug it off and think mutations aren't important, because they really are. And don't freak out, the mutations aren't completely complicated or anything. All you're going to want is some bee ability rate on your tadpoles. And on the rest of your buoyants, you're going to want critical chance. If you can't get critical chance, then bee ability rate works as well. If you can't get either of those, you can get convert rate, because convert rate's just good, but you want to go for that nice critical chance on your buoyant bees. When it comes to your bear bee and your windy bee, you're going to want to try and get bee ability rate on them, especially your bear bee, because getting more bear tokens is very nice. Now all the mutations are decent and they do help. Bee quips are definitely way more important, so please pay attention and actually take note of the bee quips you're gonna need. Now just a list of some of the bee quips you can use. You can use a snow tiara, paper angel, beesmas tree hats, pine cones, beesmas tops, elf caps, icicles, charm bracelet, kazoo, sweatband, barrette, peppermint antennas on your bear bee, toy horns, and paper clips. The beesmas tree hats can go on your buoyant bees or frosty and ninja bees. The pine cones can go on your bear bee and bucko bee. The beesmas tops are for your looker, cool, and bumblebee. The elf caps, which you do want to, and when you put on the elf cap, and then when you put on the elf caps, you want to put on a convert mutation as well. And then the icicles can go on your ninja bees, frosty bees, or bee ability rate buoyant bees. Oh my gosh, okay, we've got that all out of the way. All right, now finally we can cover the rest of the amulets. We just really quickly had to cover all the bee quips and all the mutations. Now we're gonna start with the ant amulet. The ant amulet doesn't cost a lot of honey or anything. It's just gonna take a lot of grinding the ant challenge. And on your ant amulet, you're going to want to try and get blue pollen, convert rate, critical chance, critical power, and any other color pollen. So it's mainly just the first 5 requirements that matter. After the ant amulet, we're moving on to the stump snail amulet. There's not too many requirements. You're basically just going to want convert amount, goo, pollen, and stump field pollen on your snail amulet. Of course, try and get a supreme amulet because that'll give the highest buffs. When it comes to stick bug though, you can't get a supreme amulet because they don't exist. So you're just going to try and get a diamond stick bug amulet, and on it, you're going to be wanting 200,000 to 300,000 capacity. Of course, 300,000 works best because you're a blue hive and capacity is your life. After that, you're going to want convert rate, blue pollen, and blue bomb pollen. I know all that was a mouthful, but thankfully the moon amulet you're going to need is a lot more simple. All you need on your moon amulet is as much honey per pollen as possible, and then extra bond from treats. And trust me, with the amount of macroing you're gonna be able to afford a lot of treats. Now, last but not least is the king beetle amulet, which is small but still important. This one is also extremely simple. All you need on your king beetle amulet is convert rate and +1 bee attack. That's literally it. Just try and get the highest convert rate possible and then get that 1 bee attack. Also, I'm so sorry I called the king beetle last but not least. We actually still have one more amulet before we move on to boosting and nectars. Of course, we cannot forget about the supreme cog amulet, which is very important and extremely painful to get, but we still have to cover it. On your supreme cog amulet, you're going to want at least 250,000 capacity, or 200,000 works just fine. Then you're going to want blue pollen, bubble pollen, and ability token lifespan on your supreme cog amulet. I know it might be tough to get a supreme cog as a blue hive, but if you are actually a pretty good blue hive, you should be able to get it. Now when it comes to your nectar priority in this game, I can just put it on screen right now, but motivating should be your #1 priority. After that is comforting, satisfying, refreshing, and invigorating nectar. Of course, the goal is to boost with just all 5 of these nectars if you can. Now once again, blue hives are different for everyone. Just keep that in mind throughout all of this, so feel free to change stuff if you're filling up too fast or not making as much honey. Just make sure you're doing it right and actually following the tips I gave in the video. I will be linking MetaBee's guide in the description of this video if you want to check it out yourself. Thank you so much, MetaBee. And I have so much more to say on this update and so many more guides that are going to be coming out in the future, so if you don't want to miss them, honestly, you don't even have to subscribe, just hit the bells. It's way more effective. Thank you so much for watching. Have fun setting your PC on fire because you macroed for 30 days straight, and I will see you all in the next video.